Hi, welcome to this session. We will discuss about improving feature flags implementation to achieve a flow. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dorra Bartaguiz. I'm CTO of Arola and co-author and illustrator of this book, Software Craft, published by Juno Edition. And we have the second edition coming soon this summer with two chapters requested from by the community. The first chapter is about DDD, domain-driven design, and craft with AI. Arola is a consulting company with a craft DNA. Since its creation, and we intervene in different formats, from the diagnostic of the problem to the implementation of project, and we are also a training center, so we can discuss about what we do in Arola after the talk if you want. And I would like to share with you, because we have two places to win of our DDD training. So if you want to play and perhaps win the place or the seat, please QR code, use the QR code to try to win. So, first question: who use feature flag today? Here is your, okay. I will start by a disclaimer and hope that all feature flag fans get ready to change your mind, and please don't hate me after this talk. So I will talk about my personal experience during our client project, and at several projects we systematically create feature flag, and for each new feature or each new user story, and I always asked the question, why do we use flag for this? And the answer is always, we have always done this way. So this kind of response always triggers something in my mind. That means that the need is not clear. And as the day go by, I'm more and more convinced that the use of a feature flag is not well implemented in our project, and the using of those flags should be used differently. We should use differently. So I dig into the subject and to understand, and I often started by the code. I found out which features are enabled in production. How many, I compared many environments, and I asked POs if there is a reason for this flag, and is it enabled or disabled at any moment in the production or any other environment, and are we cleaning some flags after the release? And so the answer or the result of this the result of my question, or the answer to my question, is that I understand it's like a mess. The mess, because the use of the feature flag is not adapted to the identified need, and we often use it for convenience, and we are pressured by the delivery deadlines, always, and the promise done at the beginning of the sprint. Imagine now each rectangle is corresponding to a scope of code enabled by a flag. Sometimes we have some feature in the impact in multiple places in the code. And we end up with the same if many times or several locations in the code. On the other hand, we have, in many cases, a mix between a business rule and the feature flag condition. It makes sense to you? Do you have these examples in your code? Yeah. It is the mess because in production, once the feature is in production, the unnecessary flag is not removed. This creates many business conditions and many ifs in the code and many configuration for the flags. The code therefore becomes less readable and requires an additional cost to understand the code written with the double condition business one and the feature flag one. Sometimes we even have dependencies between flags, because sometimes you can have a feature within a flag inside another feature within another flag. So sometimes we have some dependencies, kind of dependencies between flags. And finally, we have even on the dev side or as well as the QA side, we need to have non-regression tests for the two cases, on and off for the flags. So all those drawbacks or makes the dev sad, and some of them becomes angry and finished or end up leaving the project. So sad result, no? Okay, wait. Let's start from the beginning. What is the definition of feature flag? It's a technique to be able to activate or deactivate or enable or deactivate a feature without delivering code. So like the switch in a room, you highlight or disable the light of the room, and we can turn off or on using the switch. We have already different terms for that. I guess perhaps you know it in different form: flag, flipper, toggle, switches. There's many conditional feature also. So when we think about a light in a room, we are talking about a feature that have been developed and that we will enable it for users for a certain period and disable it for another time. So I want to underline this point. I'm talking about a multiple activation of the same feature. We enable it, disable it, and enable it another time. If the feature is a small one, we are talking about the flag or like the light in the room or the switch of the room. When it is medium or larger one, we are talking about the electrical panel in the house. And for the larger one, we probably disable it via the electrical panel or distribution board of the building. For giant feature, it's more like an epic. So perhaps it's like the city control lighting or the city lighting control system. And of course, let's be honest, this one is not a feature, okay? So keep in mind or remember that what is the definition of a feature flag? Like really the switch of the room, okay? Now, let's see why we need to use the feature flag. And during my experience, I found out 3 cases. The partial release, so when we should deliver, but we didn't finish the feature. So we want to deliver the code, a dead code. The second case is the activation by context. So we want to activate the functionality by a region, a segment, or a zone, or another context. And the third one is an external dependency, probably to use an external service managed by another team, and we don't control it, or we don't have it inside the team. I took advantage of Arola quarterly open space or open forum to discuss with my colleague about the subject to prepare the talk. And at the same time, I launched a survey to collect opinion of, OK, the survey was in French, so from the community of French developer. I got many results, so I would like to thank them, thank all the people who participated to this survey. And the discussion and the survey confirm these cases and the other one. Indeed, we have 29% that consider the feature never lasts in an iteration. So that's why they are using flags. 27 users use flags to enable feature by segment, so by context or area. 40% consider that they have several of them, so we have many developers who develop in parallel in the project or on the feature. And the surprise, 10% tests in production directly. So how they do? They release a feature with a flag. They enable it in production directly. If it's OK, that's fine. If there is a bug, they disable it, they fix, and it's loop. They release the feature and so on. The survey revealed other use case, like trunk-based development. We have two versions in parallel, production one, and we are perhaps rewriting another one, and an explicit request also from the customer that we have no choice, we should do that. So let's summarize. On one hand, we have the use cases like partial delivery, context specific activation, external dependency, two versions in parallel, explicit customer request. And on the other hand, we have all the drawbacks or disadvantages of feature flag or feature flippers or whatever. And they are not removed, multiple if in the code, less readable code, etc. So I invite you to see things differently through alternatives to classic feature flag. And those alternatives will affect the organization of the work, the prioritization of the need, and the design of the solution used. Let's start with trunk-based development. Who knows TBD? Yeah, OK. For those who don't know or not familiar with it, TBD or trunk-based development is an approach that invites to contribute directly on the trunk, so a unique code base, and we don't have branches. That's fine. Benefits are multiple. First one, continuous collaboration. That means that all the developers work on the same trunk, and that fosters the collaboration and communication between the team member. So there is no silo, each one, like when we are using branches, each one is on her own or his own branch. The second advantage is the conflict reduction. As we no longer have branches, the number of conflict drastically reduce, sure. Because the conflict comes already when or arrive when we merge different branches. The third advantage is continuous integration is facilitated since a developer contribute directly on the trunk, and there is no difference between the different branches. And by maintaining a stable and functional trunk at all of the time, deployment can be faster and more frequently, sure. So, as you understood, it's the trunk-based development is a reaction to branch-based development, which is, we create a branch for each feature or each user story, and at the end of the development, we merge the branch directly on the trunk, on the main branch, perhaps main dev or another name. So the risk is to have conflict at the moment of the merge. So the older the branch is, the more likely the merge conflict one. So in this case, when we have a branch or a separate branch, the feature is here somewhere, but never used in production. And that's why the trunk-based development is a reaction to branch-based development. But let's have a look on this example. The question is how to continue delivering production if we have a non-complete feature. Like this example, the feature B is not finished at the moment of creating the release package. And the solution, of course, is, OK, the feature flag. We will disable the feature B until it's finished. And then, when it's finished, we will enable the feature. Right? Easy. But if we do that, that means that with trunk-based development, the status of the feature flag is always off and then always on. OK? But remember, we said that the feature flag is like the switch in the room. That means that we have multiple activation of the same feature. It's not the case of the trunk-based development using a flag. So it's kind of, the feature is here, always, somewhere, but never used in production. And that's why I always said that the trunk-based development with the feature flag is kind of branch-based development. So the code is here in the production, but never used. So we don't know if there is a bug or not, etc. And it's kind of a partial delivery use case. So let's have a look on this use case. Why are we using a partial delivery? Many reasons. We prefer to make it because we need to reassure ourselves and our customers to avoid the tunnel effect and to reduce the life cycle of branches. Let's imagine this example. we have a feature during 2 sprints. And yeah, the question is why we need to wait for the second sprint to enable the feature. Why we can't deliver the package with 2 user stories? Because I guess you know, but user stories should comply, with the invest criteria. And if we use feature flag, it's because if we use feature flag because the user stories are not independent and not valuable. So that's why I said it's kind of smell. If you are not familiar with how to split your user stories, you can use the patterns of splitting user stories of Richard and Peter. There is many patterns. If the feature is kind of workflow, if there is perhaps 2 parts of the user story, a simple one, a complex one, etc. And the main criteria is the size of the user story should be between 1/10 and 1/6 of your velocity. If the size of your user story is bigger than 1/6 or less than, perhaps, that means that perhaps it's too huge to it can be split. Let's take an example. In this case of workflow, we have a healthcare workflow. So the patient can search for a practitioner and then view the available slots, book the appointment, receive a confirmation, and receive a reminder. Then next. The idea is to say, OK, we will decompose this on 2 parts. The first one will be the beginning and the end of the workflow. And we will deliver a tiny usable version for the middle one. That means that we have an example. We will conserve the first and the last one, or last steps of the workflow. And instead of having 3 steps in the middle, we will create a new steps or a tiny one, which is probably first the book available appointment first. And then in the second one, we will implement the other stories. That's how these patterns are useful to split differently and to have a better split to deliver frequently also. And we don't need feature flag. And if you are not familiar or you don't want those, or you consider that those patterns are complicated, you can use the hamburger technique of Goiko-Adzich. And the technique is quite simple in 5 steps. You can split the user story take or the feature. And let's have an example. There is you can identify tasks first, identify the option of each task. We can combine the results and then trim the burger and take the first bite. We'll see an example to understand it more. In a treasury context, we in a project we need to create a filter in a reporting page, and we need a tree view like this. So we check the parent, it checks the children, and when we uncheck a child, it uncheck the parent. For this feature, we need 3 tasks. Get all the counterparts, choose one or many counterparts, and then filter the data of reports by the chosen counterparts. Let's identify now options for each task. For get all the counterparts, we can consider that the option is none. We will not get all the counterparts. For the choose one or many, we can choose one. We can input one counterpart with auto-completion, or we can just input like using a text box. And for filtering data or report data by chosen counterparts, we can consider that we choose by just one counterpart. And then the first step, we will try to decide on the level of the quality required for each task. So we trim the burger by taking the options that have the higher quality versus the production ratio time, or production time ratio. In this example, we can choose to input the counterpart and filter data using it. Or we can say, OK, to have a better quality, or the minimum quality we need, is to input the counterpart with an auto-completion. So we can choose another option. This is how, in the project, we went from the need of a tree view to filter as a filter to a text box. And what we are looking for is always efficiency in the project. So that's how we split. By splitting the user stories correctly, no longer in a position to need a partial delivery, because we at the end, all our user stories are small, and we can deliver at any moment. So we don't need also flags for that. Let's have a look to this case, context-specific activation or segment activation. It's an activation over a period, a region, an environment, and perhaps also an activation via or of an A/B testing for some users. But all of these cases, do we really need a manual activation for them? I don't think so. If we have a look, all those are business criteria and in a business context. And when we think about business criteria, it's like a domain invariant in domain-driven design. And that means that we need to design it. And the domain invariant are part of our aggregates. As Cyril said to me when I created the talk, if it's so important, make it a feature instead of just a flag. When the scenario looks like this, another example, we have a behavior, we have a condition, we have if the condition is OK, we have a behavior satisfying this condition, or another behavior which is not satisfying the condition. Think of pattern like a strategy instead of having a switch or a flag. And for some other cases, you can use perhaps the decorator pattern of Gunga4 to dynamically add the behavior in an object without changing its interface. OK? Now, in some cases, or some more complex cases, we can find ourselves faced with more complex needs, such as management of campaigns, promotional campaigns, or kind of several feature in payment, as payment. In that case, we probably need to combine several design patterns, and we can split differently perhaps we can split the need as different bounded contexts. During another conference, I had a discussion with Thomas, and he asked me, yeah, what about my case? My champions, kind of super users, want to enable the feature after training all the users. So that's easy to enable manually after all the training sessions. And my answer was, after the discussion, yeah, training completed should be a domain event. So why do you need a manual flag? I mean, we should have a subscriber to this event to enable the needed feature. And yeah, Vogue Vernon invite us to use this powerful modeling tool because, yeah, it's more useful than just a flag. So when we are in a context-specific activation, try to find out your domain invariant and identify domain events and use them instead of just a flag. Next use case, 2 versions in parallel. Yeah, in this case, we are talking about a context where we need to deal with a legacy. And we have the choice between complete rewrite of the project, like a Big Bang, a partial rewrite, or a partial extraction, etc. And facing those needs, we have techniques and patterns such as a strangler app pattern or branch by abstraction pattern and others. We present all those patterns in our signature training in Arola catalog. Strangler app pattern is a pattern of partial rewriting in a legacy. And it's in the image of the strangler fig trees. These plants that grow around the host tree and gradually suffocate until it dies. The idea, so, is to develop on a new code as a priority and not to make the legacy evolve anymore. So the idea is to shrink little by little the legacy until it disappears. But it requires rigor and synchronization mechanism if in data, if we really separate the 2 versions, the legacy and the new version. Okay. The second pattern, the branch by abstraction, is another technique which allows us to make a large-scale change in a system in progressive way. So how does it work? We have many clients facing to a legacy that we want to replace. So the idea is to create the abstraction that is used by one client. We check if it's OK. We move all the clients to that abstraction. And then we create the new version which corresponds or implements the same abstraction. We test on one client. And then, if it's OK, we redirect all the clients to it. And at the end, we remove the legacy one. So to manage two versions in parallel, we have patterns and techniques that allows to deal with the legacy. And so why, let me say, deprive ourselves to use of them? And yeah, I guess we don't need any flag to do that. OK, now let's have a look to the external dependency use case. It's a server that we need, but that is not within our scope. So we don't control it. And we don't control its evolutions, and therefore the bugs it may have. So in this case, we are facing a lack of confidence in the availability of and the consistency of that service. So the alternative of the FOF could be the circuit breaker, which is a couple of techniques, the health check, and coupled with the feature flag. This means that we have to think of an alternative feature for the initial one, if the user or the used service is not available. So how it works, yeah, we call the health check service. We check if it's OK. If it's OK, we call the external service. And if it's not, we will call the alternative feature. The circuit breaker can be implemented in different way. We can always call the health check before calling the the needed service. Or we can imagine the health check as a background service which runs continuously and check the status of the external service to put on or off the flag. So the idea is to say, OK, everything is managed automatically. So we don't need to check manually if it's OK, and we don't need to check to change the state of the flag manually. Last one, the explicit customer request. So yeah, that means that probably the person didn't understand the use or why we use the flag. So for the joke, suggest him to or her to watch this talk. At the end, finally, the simple use of feature flag with its in the code, with or without a library, as you want, it is kind of easy solution. So it's an easy solution in a short term, but you have to be aware in the long term with all the negative or effect or with all the drawbacks of the flags. So the code is not easy to maintain, the additional cost of analysis, the longer non-regression tests, and the higher turnover. As I said, there is many alternatives to the use of feature flag. So try them, and yeah, you will see that there is better alternatives in daily work. And yeah, it's not, yeah, you can use many other techniques instead of the traditional flag. Let me say, I want to, yeah, it's kind of trade-off, but if you can use the flags, but make sure that, or to automate the generation of living documentation to you of used flag to highlight the flag that probably to automate the cleaning, and to highlight the flags that never changed, perhaps, or created a long time ago, and limit the number of used or active flag in production. That's all. Thank you. And if you want to discuss, it's a pleasure. And I put the flag if you want to win the 2 places to our DDD training. So thank you very much.